Hi guys, and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today we're continuing up the British heavy line with the Tier 5, the Churchill Mark 1. Now I've done the Matilda, which technically isn't a heavy, although it kind of does set you up for how you're going to be playing the tanks and how they're going to sort of feel. You know, they're they're fairly well armoured, slow moving tanks. Now personally I've had the most success with the Churchill 1 playing it in a support role, and again that kind of sets you up for how you're going to be playing the line really, most of the way through. I'd say the British heavies generally fulfill a supporting role rather than a direct frontline sort of fighter, although the Chieftain can work very well on the front line as long as you can get it hull down, because you do have a very weak hull, as can the 215B. Again, you've got to get in the right position, hull down or side scraping, that sort of thing. But generally, like I say, I tend to have more success in this playing that supporting role. Even when you're top tier, don't get lulled into a false sense of security thinking, I'm a very well armoured tank, I can get up there, because things can get around you very easily. Now, you can side scrape in it, but I find this tank frustrating, probably the most out of the line, because the more you upgrade it, the weaker your turret gets, and the less gun depression you get. You actually go from -10 on your stock gun to a paltry -4 with this gun, which incidentally is the same gun as you get on the Cromwell at Tier 6, the British medium. Now, having said that, if you go through the British medium line, or you have gone through the British medium line first, up until around, say, Tier 9 with the Centurion 7.1 with the 20-pounder Type B, the heavy tanks going up this line share a lot of the guns. They also share a lot of the engines, so it does make this grind a lot less painful, especially when you get to the Carnarvon. But we're not here to talk about them. We're here to talk about the Chieftain, the Churchill. Let's start by having a look at the packages, and I find that these always take a lot longer, these reviews, because there are obviously the different packages, whereas on a premium, that's it. What you see is what you get. There's no upgrades or anything else. Now, I'll pop this on so I can show you. You do start off with this turret and a 2-pounder gun. There you go. Now, it's not a bad turret, actually. Quite rounded on the front. -10 degrees of gun depression, so it works ridgelines quite well. And it's quite a decent turret, like I say. I think it's 102 on the front. Let's have a look. Yeah, 102 on the front, 89 on the sides and the rear, and with that round a bit you can bounce quite a few shots off there. However, you do only have a 2-pounder gun. 28.5 rounds a minute, 78 pen, 50 damage, 121 on your premium rounds. Good aiming time and accuracy. Well, accuracy is not bad at 0.36, but a good aiming time at 1.7. Now again, you want to be trying to play the sporting role, although the problem you'll find is that if you're keeping yourself at range in the higher tier matches, then you're going to struggle to penetrate. But with the accuracy, you can more or less aim for weak spots, and sort of you can expect to hit them a few times at least. But like I say, it does kind of set you up. You will be tempted to go in, but the 178mm of advertised armour on the front of the tank isn't the whole story, and I'll show you that, and it might change your mind about getting in there. In towns and cities you can side scrape very well though, but with that gun you can work the ridge lines. But you are going to probably have to fire some premium ammunition, and fire a lot of it, but the rate of fire does make up for that. Now, you should have the 3-inch howitzer already unlocked from the Matilda, so you can stick that on, but bear in mind, with only 38 pen and a very low 175 damage for your HE, that's not going to do a great deal of splash, and you'll be seeing up to Tier 7 in this. So I really would give that a wide berth unless you're prepared to sling a lot of premium ammunition, and possibly even, bounce with that, to be honest. That was a very strange noise that came out of my mouth there, and with the accuracy you are going to have to get up close, and you kind of want to try and avoid that in this. Anyway, you then get a 6-pounder, but this is where your turret changes. You only get 89 on the front, 89 on the sides, which is the same, and 76 on the rear, but it's a very flat-fronted turret, and we'll look at that in a minute. There's no gun mantle either. Now, with the 6-pounder, I believe you do get -9 on the gun depression. No, still -10, so that's not bad at all, really. Again, you can still work the ridge lines with it, you can still play that supporting role. You have got an increase in penetration up to 105. Your damage is also increased to 75, still not great, but it is getting better, and you've still got a good rate of fire to make up for it though at 27.27. Aiming time's increased slightly to 1.9, and your accuracy has decreased slightly to 0.43, so you're not quite as accurate, but like I say, you've got the pen to make up for it, and definitely with your premium ammunition at 170 you shouldn't have much trouble with the things you're going to come up against. Your hull traverse is 22, and I think you get that from the first upgrade package. Yeah, you start off at 20, you do get a minor increase to 22, but I think, nope, your turret traverse stays the same, and your view range is a little low at 350, to be honest. That can be a bit of a factor. But anyway, moving along, you then get another 6-pounder. This is the Mark V. Same rate of fire, slight increased penetration, same damage, and again, slight increased penetration with your premium ammunition. The accuracy does get slightly better though at 0.41, and your aiming time stays the same. And again, I think with that one, it's pretty much the same with the penetration, but I'll just check for you when I can figure out the buttons. And I meant the gun depression. No, that one goes down to -9, so this is when you start to get the gun depression drops, but you can still work the ridge lines with -9. It's not a bad number at all when you're talking about gun depression. I had a complete brain fart then, and my mind went blank. Right, moving along, because bear in mind, like I say, try and keep it medium range. Work the ridge lines with these guns, that use that gun depression. The 75mm gun Mark V, I didn't bother with it. 20 rounds a minute, 91 pen, 110 damage, so you get less pen than the 6-pounder but more damage, but your rate of fire drops by 7 rounds a minute, which is quite a lot. Your accuracy gets ever so slightly worse, but again, your aiming time's the same. Now, personally, I would ignore that gun. I would grind out the XP, unlock it, and then just basically keep using the 6-pounder until you get to this gun, which is the 75mm Vickers HV, which is the same gun that you get on the fully upgraded Cromwell at tier 6. Now, by this time you also have had an extra 50 horsepower added to the engine. It really doesn't make much difference, which is why I've not really mentioned it, but there you go, it's there. It does make the slightest amount of difference, but it's barely noticeable. Anyway, with the 75mm Vickers HV, you do get a massive drop in fire rate down to 12.5 rounds a minute, which still isn't too bad for the tier. But bear in mind, this is a medium tank gun, and you are going to be using essentially medium tank guns all the way up to the Conqueror when you get that fully upgraded and you get a 120mm gun. So it's just one of the things of the British heavies. And the Black Prince with the 17-pounder, fantastically armoured machine, very strong turret front, and if angled properly or side scraping, near on impenetrable. But that gun is quite frustrating because you do have to put so much firepower down to actually do any damage. Now, it's not too bad down at this tier. Like I say, it is still a medium tank gun, but it's not as noticeable because a lot of the heavies, well, I say a lot of them, some of them aren't really doing as much damage, but you get them beat on the fire rate with this every time. But you've got 145mm of penetration and 135 damage, so there is that increase. I really wouldn't bother with the HE rounds, but you carry a lot of ammo, so maybe take a couple for if you've got to reset the cap in a hurry, but that's entirely down to personal preference. Your premium rounds get 202mm of penetration with, again, your standard 135 average damage, and your aiming time has increased to 2.3 seconds, which is a fairly hefty increase, but your accuracy has gone back down to 0.36 again, so again, you are quite accurate, and it does work well in that support role. In fact, I've got a video coming up, I think one of the replays, I'm in a tier 6 match, and that's basically how I play it, and I end up, bouncing a few shots, and do quite well because, the accuracy is not bad at all. Now, let me just put that one back on, because we're going to be looking at that one in the viewer, because this is the fully upgraded one. Now, you'll see what I mean about the flat turret front, and yeah, that is a bit of an issue because, well, that's basically your weakest spot, but we'll look at that in a minute. Shell costs for your top gun, 100 for your standard armour piercing, 2,800 for your APCR, 56 for your high explosive. Now you'll notice I haven't got any with me, and any premium ammunition, sorry, because of me swapping the gun about. So I've actually been playing a few games with this, trying to replace the lost files without any premium ammo. But to be honest, I don't think I've really suffered from it. But I would take some. Maybe a couple of HE, 15 premium ammo should do you, probably something like that. Equipment wise, well, I've not got any on it at the minute because I've bought it for the purposes of doing this, but I would definitely go for the gun lane drive and then the tank gun rammer, and then it'd be a choice between improved vents, maybe to improve everything about the tank, you know, your aiming time, your traverse, your acceleration, which would come in handy. Maybe coated optics to try and improve that view range. It's not bad at firing on the move, and you'll find this with this, the Churchill I, the Black Prince. They're such slow vehicles that they are quite good at firing on the move, so maybe coated optics to improve your view range. Or something I've just thought about, because you are a bit of an arty magnet, maybe a spoil liner. It won't make really any difference to your speed because you're slow anyway, and it will give you that added protection from HE shells, because, well, I don't know if it's just me or if it is the Churchill, but I find that the British Heavies are very very good at attracting artillery shells because of the large engine decks. Now, skills for the crew. Repairs, swap it out for 6th sense, then repairs again, but then maybe track mechanic, and then repairs again, which is probably going to be your best bet on this. Your turret traverse is not bad actually at 34 degrees, and even though your hull traverse is quite poor at 22, with that fairly decent turret traverse you can bring your turret around quite easily if something does get round behind you. But you know, the problem is it's got the softer parts of your armour then, but at least you can get your gun to bear to actually be returning fire while you're turning your hull, and your hull's never going to go faster than your turret, which is quite frustrating on a tank. So yeah, you know, turn your hull and your turret at the same time, and if anything gets behind you, it's not too savage. But skill wise, like I say, repairs, track mechanics, 6th sense, not necessarily in that order, then probably something like clutch braking, depending on which one you're going to go for. I'd say safe stowage, get it earlier on, because you're going to need it on the Carnarvon, you're going to need it on the Conqueror, you're going to need it on the Chieftain. If you're going to go for the 215B, you want to get preventative maintenance because it is front-engined. Now, let's have a look at the modules and try and get this one wrapped up. Like I say, they are longer because you do have all the modules to talk about, or I have all the modules to talk about, should I say, so it does take a little bit longer. Now, engine at the back, well, fully upgraded, you've got a very poor power to weight ratio of 8.76 horsepower per tonne, with a not very good top speed of 25.7 kilometers an hour, but I think it is faster than the Mark 7 and the Black Prince, so enjoy it while you can. Not a bad reverse speed at 14 kilometers an hour, you know, it has got that going for it, but you have got a 20% chance of fire in the engine, and it's a fairly big engine. It takes up most of the back of the tank, but if you're shooting at one of these things, you want to be shooting at the hull if you want to damage the engine between the rear drive wheels and basically the back of the turret, and that's where the engine is. Try and avoid that angled bit of armour though, because you can bounce off there. I've had a few sort of same tier and lower tier tanks shooting at the side at a distance and they were bouncing, so do try not to aim for the angled parts. Your gun, like I say, full upgraded, very poor gun depression at -4 degrees, and a god-awful elevation as well at +12 degrees, and it can really be a pain in the backside. If anything's above you, you just can't get your gun up to shoot at it, and I've had it where I'm just sort of going over you know, some of the roads where they've got a slight ridge either side of the tracks, and I was going over that, and because the front of the vehicle was slightly down, I couldn't actually bring my gun up to shoot at something that was more or less on a level. So do bear that in mind. The elevation and depression on this are absolutely awful. In fact, I can't think of anything that's got worse gun elevation than this. Now, the tracks themselves, terrain resistances aren't too bad, but they're not brilliant either. 1.2 and 2.1, and you do have large gaps in the tracks. There is no sort of inner hull like a lot of the Start again. There is no sort of inner part of the hull. The tracks seem to actually go around the hull itself, and we'll see that in the armour view, but there are gaps in the tracks there. On the other tanks, they do seem to have, well, the Mark 7, should I say, I think, and the Black Prince, although I could be wrong on this, do seem to have a sort of inner hull, but again, could be slightly wrong. Turret up on top, like I say, quite flat, no real gun mantle to it, and quite a prominent turret ring as well, which is, well, it does get jammed quite often actually. That is something I have noticed, so again, bear that in mind. I've had my turret knocked out a few times in this today. Radio is in the back of the turret, more or less in the middle, but ever so slightly off to the left. Well, yeah, the left. Ammunition blocks, we've got two just under the turret, more or less in the middle of the tank itself. Yeah, in the hull, on the right hand side of the vehicle, and you've got a smaller one on the left hand side of the vehicle, again towards the sort of middle rear of the turret and down a bit. So you want to try and take out the ammo rack on one of these things, aim for just underneath the turret and sort of slightly back just to be safe. Crewman, well, obviously you've got the commander up under his commander's cupola, which is quite small on this turret, but then again the whole turret is pretty much a weak spot. You've also got the gunner and the loader up there, and then you've got the driver, and I can only assume that maybe classing him as a radio operator, I really don't know, but he's also down in the front of the hull. Now, armour figures. Concealment, just before I do that. 0.14, God, I honestly, I cannot speak tonight. Right, stationary, 0.14, moving, 0.07. Right, that's better. I had to put on the old world British radio presenter voice. Hit points, well, fully upgraded, you've got 700 hit points. I'll have a look into that. Do you know, that's really bad of me. I'm not even sure if that's average or what for the tier, so I do apologise. I'll look into that shortly. But the armour figures, well, we've already seen 89 for the turret on the front and side, 76 on the rear. The hull, it claims, is 178 on the front, 64 on the sides, and 51 on the rear. No, that doesn't quite look true, does it, from these figures? So let's go through and have a look. Well, 1 to 20 is the actual floor of the hull. The whole top deck, the engine deck and the sort of front deck in front of the turret top and the top of the commander's cupola, and also the tracks class as, well, between 1 and 20 mil of spaced armour as they usually do. 21 to 30 are the rear sides of the hull, and you see that angle bit inside the tracks, that's actually part of the hull, and that's what I mean where the tracks actually go around the hull itself, unlike on a lot of these tanks where the sort of tracks are on the side of the hull. And also the base of the turret is a bit thinner as well, goes into that category. Now 31 to 50, well, that's the rear of the tank, or the upper part of the rear of the tank, which is the flatter part. Parts of the sides of the track itself, now you can see it's a real hodgepodge. That square towards the front of the hull, that actually shows as a hatch on the tank model itself, so that is a weaker spot. So do remember that one when you shoot at one of these from the sides. If you're struggling to penetrate, shoot for that hatch. It is a weak spot, and you can see those angle pieces of armour there, and they basically cover the engine either side, so try and shoot just above or just below that one, and you should have a lot more luck penetrating the side of one of these things. Now 51 to 70, well, that's the rest of the side of the tank, and small strips just going inside the tracks as part of the hull. 71 to 90, well, we've got the figures for the turret, 89, 89, 76, so it all just falls into that category, as does the commander's cupola. Now, from the front, as you can see, it says it's 178. Not quite true. You've got those two small patches to the right of the hull as we're looking at it, and you've got that large patch to the left of the hull as well, which is thinner. So if you can, try and shoot that part or the lower plate, because it is a lot thinner than the rest of the tank. That's sort of if you're up close. If not, go for the turret front. I'd probably say to the left of the gun as we're looking at it, because it's a larger area to hit, and there is a bit of thicker armour just surrounding the gun itself. And when you're driving one of these things, angling is key, or side scraping, and like I say, keeping it at medium distance. If you angle this way, you can see it hides that larger, weaker spot, so that is one way of trying to manage that weak spot. But if you are up close, and this is what I'm talking about, staying at medium range, your turret is so easy to hit and penetrate, it's just not even funny. And I find that so frustrating, that you've got a strong hull, weak turret, because you can always hide your hull, you can't hide your turret. Well, you can, but you just can't shoot back. Now, 91 to 120, that's that patch around the gun that I was telling you about. And then your 161 to 190, which I'm assuming is your 178 advertised, is that small patch surrounding the two sort of hatches, viewports, if you will, on the right hand side of the hull as we're looking at it. So if you're shooting at one of these from the front, don't shoot that bit. In fact, you're going to have to try pretty hard to hit a bit that is actually 178 on one of these things. And like I say, if you're angling it, you're driving one of these, try and angle it that way, you know, so you're sort of shooting over the front right corner of your track, and it'll just emphasise all the thicker parts of your armour, and fingers crossed it will bounce, but not if they start shooting at your turret, unfortunately. Anyway, I think that's about it. I've been rambling on for, wow, a good 20 minutes. I'm going to have to try and do something to cut this down, so let's get into those replays very quickly. Right, so here we are for the first of the replays. It's Siegfried Line, it's a tier 6 match, and it's an assault, and we're on the attack. And I'll just start by saying I do apologise for the length of that garage review. I've normally got them down for the premiums to about sort of 8 to 10 minutes. And that one was 20. I really don't know how I did it, how I've managed to get it like that, and unfortunately I couldn't cut anything out. But as some of you that are watching on desktop will have noticed, on my reviews I've started putting an annotation up at the beginning, so you can skip straight to the replays. And for those of you not watching on desktop, I will put a link in the description that will skip to the replays. But yeah, I do apologise, I honestly don't know how I did it. I know that the tech tree ones take a bit longer because, like I say, there's all the different modules to talk about. But yeah, that's a little bit long. Even I got fed up of hearing me. So sorry about that. But you know, bear with me. The next tech tree one will be shorter. I'll try and keep it, like I say, premium ones. The garage bit's about 8 to 10 minutes. I think for a tech tree one, maybe 10 to 13 minutes would suffice to cover all the well, to cover all the modules. So I do apologise for that, and yeah, I'll try and do better next time. Right, now I've come towards the town. I know I said to keep it medium range, but with this gun, and I've not included gameplay footage with the other guns because you're basically going to have used those guns on the previous tanks, or you know, most of them, and you will have a general idea of how they're going to play like. Unless you've been down the British medium line, you're not going to really know this one. And it also highlights the problems that you have with the gun depression and the elevation as well. Now, you can see the SU-85 there, so I'm lining up, angling, and he's just bouncing off me. And I didn't realise, but I think I was actually side scraping. I'm not sure he could hit the front of my hull, although that might be where he actually put that shell. Now, this is one of those tanks, and I think I've mentioned it with other slow tanks before as well, and I really don't want to give that KV5 my side, he would annihilate me. You've really got to read the map and the team lists properly, because you're not fast enough to get back across the map if you go the wrong way. So it's just one of those things. You know, you can try and anticipate all you want, but human nature is what it is, and people will not always do what you expect them, so try and read it as best you can. If need be, just follow another group of tanks, let them spot for you, and you know, try and stay in that supporting role. And you can see I'm being quite careful through the town. The Japanese super heavy tanks make a bit of a mess of Churchills as well. I'll just come out the other side. Now, yeah, I failed to notice the KV1 at first, but I can put some shots into his back. And the worst thing about getting this gun when you've been in the Churchill is, you know, like you start off with 28 rounds a minute, then 27 rounds a minute, and then even that other 75mm which I said don't really bother with, you know, that's 20 rounds a minute, and then all of a sudden it's 12.5, and it just feels incredibly slow when you first get this gun, but it is the best one for it. Now, I don't think I'm going to get another shot on that T-34-85 just yet, but I'll turn my attention on the 3001H. And you'll probably notice from the date, this one is one that I did a couple of days ago. This is one of the ones that was actually, you know, I managed to save and still access. Now, if I just wait, I might be able to... Oh, there we go. Oh, and I damaged him. I was expecting to just track him, trying to get a bit of assisted damage that way, but it actually went through the hull. See if I can get it through the front of the hull again. Yep, I thought that was going to be a bit of an extreme angle for that, to be honest, but that was a pleasant surprise. And that's him dealt with. Now, it's not been a bad match. I do take a hit there from something. Oh, and then I take a hit from the T-34-85. Now, I'd rather give him my side than whatever's across there, because oh, it's a 3001H. That seemed to give me a bit more of a whack. Got rid of him, and I'm trying to angle, but it's difficult not knowing where he actually is. And even that penetrated, which is surprising, although now he's either bouncing. Yeah, he must be bouncing. My tracks didn't eat that one. Can I get a shot in? And luckily, he's missing and bouncing now, which is quite fortunate, but not quite fortunate enough, as he actually kills me, unfortunately. Well, I'll say it again, I'm not going to. But yeah, I'm dead. But so was he. He got taken out by one of my teammates. And isn't that so frustrating? You just think, why couldn't that shell have had a higher velocity? Or you pulled the trigger a split second before, and then I might have survived that match. But not too bad. 1609 damage. Small amount of assist, a small amount of assisted, and a small amount of blocked as well, with a first class mastery, and I came second in a tier 6 match. I don't know what's up with my speech tonight. I seem to have just forgotten my native language and just can't seem to get my words out. Oh, I keep having brain farts as well, so you know, like I say, when your mind just goes poof and blank. Right, here's the second replay for you tonight. It's another tier 6 match. This time it's a standard battle, and it's on Fisherman's Bay. And this is the replacement match for the file that I lost. And I've kept it as 2 replays because, again, I think in both of them you can see the strengths and the weaknesses of this tank, and to try and keep the length of the video down, because, yeah, I did ramble on quite a lot in the garage, so once again, sorry. But I'm going to go up towards the northwestern corner. Most of the tanks seem to go in towards the town. Now, I was in 2 minds at the beginning to whether to go to the town or go up this way, and I could have gone to the town, not gone right up front, but sort of stayed towards the back, roughly where that tank destroyer and that bunch of tanks have just entered the town there. Stayed back a little bit, tried to make it harder to hit my turret, and played that supporting role, side scraped off the building, and probably would have done alright. But not many people come up here. So I thought I'd come up this way, try and cover artillery a little bit. There's a tank destroyer following me as well, but we don't want to leave this flank open because they could sweep right down that gully that runs down the one line and come straight into our flank, and that'd pretty much be a bit of a steamroller, I would imagine. Yeah, it does again take a while to get anywhere, so you've really got to read the map, but I was pretty confident that there was going to be some sort of push from down this side, and I was just trying to stay back, and in this one I really do play that supporting role a lot more. I'm on the side of a T-34. Now bear in mind I've got no equipment on this. This is just, you know, as standard. You put equipment on it, get a skilled crew, you know, it will perform better than it is doing for me. And I think in that last match I didn't even have a 100% crew. I think they were still training up, and they've just got 6th sense sort of active, but now repairs is about half full on this crew, I think. It's one that I was training up for something else, and I just stuck it in the Churchill to do the review. Now I've got the side of that ARL 44. I did track him. I have a feeling he'll have burnt his repair kit, and yeah, it probably did. I thought that went slightly wide. Now, Panzer 4H has snuck down. Oh, and another one, 2 Panzer 4Hs. They have made a push down that side. I thought somebody would. They've taken out one of our RT, and I started taking hits from the Chaffee, and he's been bouncing, but he's managed to damage my tracks. He's still bouncing. I've immobilised that Panzer 4, and he's bouncing as well because I managed to get myself at a decent angle before before I got tracked. Although somebody seems to be penetrating, so they've either swapped. I don't know, they've either swapped to premium ammunition, but it seems very low damage. What's possibly more likely is to swap to HE in frustration. Now I managed to get one of the Panzer IVs, and like I say, it's all about angling, and you'll see that I am angling the tank slightly. I'm shooting over the front corner of the track. Now just re-angle because he's moved. But to be honest, I don't know why he didn't return fire. Maybe he couldn't get his gun down enough, but I think they've got -10 on the Panzer IV-8 if I remember rightly. So it was surprisingly good. Although that could be the Panzer IV Hydro. No, I think it might be that as well. Anyway, back to this match. Managed to secure the corner for now. And there's a KV-1S up in the middle of the map. There's a light tank spotted down near the town, and either nobody else has spotted, or I am out of radio range to actually see the spotted tanks. That could be a possibility because of where I am on the map and how far away I am. Although there is another heavy that's just popped up on the map. Now normally I wouldn't push down this side. I'd normally go over the gully and push down there because it gives you cover from this side and from the sort of village up on the top of the hill. But again, I was pretty confident that the KV-1S was the only guy up there. I think there would have been a few more shots coming out from this direction if there was anything else up here. And I'd seen no trace of fire. The KV-1S had obviously, you know, spotted something and was shooting at it, but there was no other trace of fire coming out, so that's why I pushed across this way. And because I'm not really fast enough to be taking a massive detour if I don't need to. However, there was an SU-85 sat up here, so I was kind of wrong that time. And that's the gun depression. And he's not dropped down very far, and I just had my track up on that embankment slightly. But you'll see I have to come right over to get my gun, shoot at him, and I bounce. So, ram him. Why not? And now it's looking very good in our favour. Oh, 12-7. I was going to say 11-7. But it's not a bad tank if you use it right. The turret is frustrating. It is, because it is weaker than the hull. But even the hull, as you've seen, is only strong in patches, and it is all about the sort of angling and, again, staying in that supporting role that you're going to be kind of playing for the rest of the tank line. That's kind of what these are. If you want a more frontline tank with a lot more armour, a lot more heavily armoured, should I say, you're probably wanting one of the Russian lines, that sort of thing. You know, or maybe even the Americans. They have weak hulls, but they have very, very good turrets, and you know, they can get up there a little bit more as long as they can either side scrape or get hull down. But you're probably looking at sort of the German heavies like the E-75 or the Russian heavies if you wanted something to get in there a bit more. Like I say, the British heavies to me, well, definitely further up the tiers, but even down here they do seem to fulfil that supporting role a bit more. And now all we've got left is the artillery, and I was just hoping, because everybody was rushing him, and I just thought, no, I only need one more kill for a Top Gun, and he's been hitting me and punishing me, so please, let me kill him. And then when he got a mercy roll there, I nearly died. I honestly thought somebody was just going to come over the hill and steal that kill, and luckily they either let me take the kill or they just didn't get there in time. But I think that one guy, he was going for it. But not a bad match at all. 51,000 silver, 3,394 XP, but that was with a couple of ops, but again that's undoubled. High caliber, steel wall, first class mastery, and a Top Gun. 18,019 damage done, 660 blocked, and a little bit of assisted as well, and I came top, which is always nice. I wasn't quite bottom tier, you know, it was a tier 6 match, I was tier 5, but again, it's always nice when that happens. But there you go, that's the Churchill Mark 1. I hope it's been useful for you, and I hope you've enjoyed it, even though it was a bit long in the garage. And I'll be back tomorrow with another video for you, so as always, take care out there, and I will catch you next time. See you later.